All rise. Honorable County Court of County now session. The Honorable Jack McCall will be presiding. Will Dennis, will you lead us in the invocation, please?
Heavenly Father, Lord, humbly bow before you once again. I thank you, Lord, for this day, blessings that you bestowed upon us, Lord. For the many times that we've failed you, Lord, we'd ask a special interest, Lord, in each home that's represented here tonight. We'd ask, Heavenly Father, that you guide our actions, Lord, our thoughts and our words, Heavenly Father, that we might always stay in the center of thy will. Continue to keep us, Lord, humble and submissive to thy will, for it's in your holy and righteous name I pray.
Amen. Commissioner Overman, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Ms. Crowder, will you call the roll, please?
Beverly Atwood. Tommy Belcher.
Here.
Shane Burton.
Here.
Alan Carmen.
Here.
Grant Cochran.
Here.
Brian Crook.
Here.
Will Dennis.
Here.
Jerry Ford.
Here.
Chris Gregory.
Here.
Bubba Gregory.
Here.
Landon Gully.
Present.
Richard Johnson.
Here.
Judy Kerr. David Nallner.
Here.
Leslie Overman.
Here.
Mark Presley.
Here.
Amber Russell.
Here.
Lonnie Taylor.
Here.
David Thomas.
Here.
Steve Whitaker.
Here.
20 present, 0 absent.
Thank you. The minutes of the January 23rd, 2023 commission meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections to the minutes, or do I have a motion to approve as presented? Motion to approve by Commissioner Ford. Are here a second? Second by Mr. Whitaker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carried. Under announcements, our sincerest condolences to two members of our commission, Mr. Brian Crook on the passing of his father and Grant Cochran on the passing of his grandfather. So we extend our prayers and condolences. A special work session has been scheduled for Tuesday, March 7th at 6 p.m. here in the community center. Representatives from Enbridge will be speaking with us and answering questions pertaining to the project. This will move the Executive Committee and Public Works Committee to Tuesday, March 9th. Thursday, March 9th. Are there any announcements to be made tonight? Under approval and amendments, Commissioner Gregory has requested a resolution in support of the current EMS color scheme be added to tonight's agenda, and I will be adding the interim fire chief appointment to our listing tonight. Do we have a motion to set the agenda with the stated amendments?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Gregory. Second? Second by Commissioner Ford. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? All those who oppose say no. Motion carried. Got that backwards. Under citizens' response to agenda items, if any of our guests tonight wish to speak to the commission about a matter on this month's agenda, please feel free to sign up at the podium. We'll wait for a few minutes for you to do that. You'll be called to address the commission at the proper time. Anyone wish to speak tonight to any of the items on the agenda? If not, we will proceed. Under the mayor's report, the park grant. Everyone's asking about the park grant. We were contacted this week and told that bids are going to be let fairly soon on the playground equipment. Amy is in discussions with the state and the Corps of Engineers to clear up boundary line questions, and those questions just keep coming. We thought they'd been resolved, but the Corps of Engineers has asked for some more things. We'll also be reviewing equipment firms in the next week that will work with the primary engineering firm to design the layout of the park. So far, everything's coming along at the speed of government. We do not have a timeline with the physical progress. I don't think it will be completed this summer. It's just kind of dragging. So, yes, sir.
Is that going back in the same place?
Yes. They may expand it a bit, but pretty much that footprint is where it's gonna be. There have been some questions about the brush truck. We're still negotiating as to what to do as far as estimates are concerned. We've gotten another estimate this week, and I'll keep you informed with that as we go along. Chief Jay Woodard resigned last week, and I'll have some details on that later tonight if anybody has any questions. The committee reports. The executive committee met on February 7th, and I'll let each person from the executive committee make their reports as coming up. Commissioner Gully, would you like to present on your February 21st meeting?
Yes, sir. Finance met on February 21st. First off, we looked at the trustees' balance sheets and financial summaries for the county. Things look to be moving along for the 6 months of the budget. In this case, it had a pretty reasonable rate compared to where we were last year. Things are seem to be pretty smooth in most all budget accounts. I know the questions were really raised in those areas. We have quite a few budget amendments on tonight's agenda that we also discussed. Each of those budget amendments came with a favorable recommendation from the Finance Committee. If there's any you would like me to speak on independently, we certainly can, but they each came with a favorable recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. Codes and zoning, David Thomas.
Codes and zoning, we discussed the pending contract tonight that's coming before us with Rick Gregory as far as the terms that you and I meeting with him had discussed. Everyone was in favor of that contract. We're looking forward to getting to work with him if possible to get the zoning ordinances cleaned up and get them unified into one document. We also had a gentleman, I can't think of his last name, let's see, George Helzer, who brought forth an idea for an amendment to our grass maintenance for residential out in the county on undeveloped lots. We discussed that, looked over his idea and took that on to planning and are still discussing on whether that's worth taking up in planning or not, since it's a subdivision regulation in his situation and most that would apply to what he was discussing. That would be handled in planning and not in this body, so I'm leaving it with them. That was pretty much the meat of our meeting on that night.
Any questions? Thank you, David. Emergency services, Commissioner Oberman.
We met on February the 15th. We had a couple commissioners absent, so it was a short crowd. Chief Beatty gave us a brief update on EMA. We talked about his EMS monthly reports. We specifically talked about their collections. They use Fox Collections Agency, and they take 30% of what they collect, and they only recoup about 7% on average. We may need to research finding another collection agency. An updated resolution is being proposed tonight for the write-offs. We talked about briefly the ambulance color. We can talk about that more tonight. We talked about the EMS payroll and the overtime. As of the end of January, the overtime line item was at 78.9%. I just want you guys to realize that that is $264,000 that we've paid since July in overtime in one department. There are records that show that current battalion chiefs are working over 130 hours of overtime per pay period. At the previous meeting, it was stated that EMS was fully staffed. However, shortly after the January meeting, 2 members resigned, a paramedic and an EMT. We talked about briefly the volunteer policy for EMS driving, volunteers driving ambulances. We talked about the fire chief, and the mayor will update that. Also talked about the new the brush truck that was wrecked and the estimates on that. And then Daniel Harris gave us a brief overview of the rescue situation.
Any questions? Thank you, Leslie. Commissioner Gregory, Public Works.
Yes, we had a meeting on February the 9th, pretty lengthy meeting. First thing we discussed was about the Little League ball fields. Cliff Solis said that the Director of Public Works is trenching lines, probably 25 to 30% done as of the meeting date. He said they're planning on running water lines and hopes to have done by the end of next week. Rewiring ball fields could take as much as a mile's worth of wiring, but Public Works is trying to save where possible. Stephen Bird was there. He's the, I think, Vice President of the Little League. He said they plan on starting practice on March the 6th, and Cliff said that everything should be done where they can start practice on March the 6th. Then we, it was this, Bird wanted to know about having porta potties down at the, over towards the T-ball field right now till they get all the water and stuff cut on. They're supposed to be getting back with us in the March meeting, and we'll make a decision on that. So they provided update on the new cameras for the park. Purchase orders been sent, waiting on company to come and review. No time frame for completion yet. I'll be glad when we get them done. I think that's really going to help with damage and stuff at the park. I think this new camera system really going to benefit us. Then we started discussing the pool. Talked about raising the rates for our lifeguards, for our assistant managers, and we all agreed, passed it. We would, I think, $10 for lifeguards, $12 for assistant managers, $15 for manager. I think we all agreed that needed to be done. And we do want to try to get an adult or two to be the managers and assistant managers. Last few years, it's been kids running, and it's been a mess down there. Then we talked about the pool menu. He's wanting to cut out doing the hot foods, the burgers and stuff, but he's supposed to get back with us at our next meeting on some ideas. And it was more or less just talking about the pool, and then he did, it was questioning about the courthouse up here, about the ductwork and all that. It's still a mess. Can you give us an update? Have you heard anything?
Actually, there was an email that was sent from Train Technologies. I believe it was sent directly to the mayor's office. And so I held off sending that letter. I sent it to Mr. Salih, and I held off sending that letter until we could see what they were going to do. And if I recall correctly, it was going to take about 2 weeks. And I think Commissioner Atwood may know a little bit more about than I do about the cleanup and repairing everything. So I think we need to give them a little bit of time, see what they do.
Mr. Chairman, I'd gone up to the courthouse last week and was looking around, and the electricians were actually starting to clean up some of the stuff that the evac guys had messed up and just had trash everywhere, so that they could actually do their job. And talking with them, they were actually aggravated because it was making their job take longer and cause issues. So even the other subcontractors are annoyed by what the HVAC guys have done.
Then Cliff brought up about the Masonic bell up here where it was falling over the pad, and they've repoured that, and he saved us a lot of money because they done most of the work themselves. I think Johnny Hawkins done some concrete work, but they saved us a lot of money from the estimates we got from other people by fixing that. And then we had Mr. Gully asked about the status of the new trash truck. Cliff said it should be here in May, and our next meeting was scheduled for March the 7th, but it's been moved to March the 9th at 7 o'clock. That's about it.
That's a good report, Commissioner
It's a lot
Gregory.
on that committee.
Thank you. Planning Commission, David.
Planning Commission has got 2 rezonings from A1 to R1 before us tonight. Both of those came with favorable approvals. We also have an amendment coming in our ordinance for an amendment to the campground regulations that also came with favorable.
Thank you. Any other reports?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Personnel met on February the 2nd at 6 o'clock. We reviewed personnel policy section 7, item H. There was questions that were brought up in that meeting that led us to postpone those discussions. until our next meeting, which is set on March 16th at 6 o'clock, the mayor's office.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add, next codes and zoning meeting will be on March 15th.
Okay.
I left that off.
March 15th. Any other announcements? Under active business, acknowledgements, the certificate of compliance has been issued for Hartsville Liquors. It's changing ownership, and need to make that a part of the minutes tonight. Under appointments, on the Board of Equalization, Ashley Scott has been added to the Board of Equalization for your approval. Let me speak for just a minute on the fire department. I met with all the volunteers of the fire department this past week with seeking to find a consensus among all of our volunteers. And it was a lengthy discussion. At the end of the discussion, they voted unanimously to appoint Mark Beeler for a stint of 60 days. Mark expressed to the fire department he was not interested in being fire chief long-term, but was willing to come in and settle things down. It was a real good feeling in the room. And again, they voted unanimously for Mark Beeler to be the interim chief. So at this point, I need a motion to approve these two appointments. Motion to approve by Commissioner Gregory, second by Commissioner Taylor. Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye. Aye. All against say no. Motion carried. Under resolutions, are we going to do a roll call on all of these, or let's just go into them? Okay. Resolution 2023-03-772 in support of the Ridgeline expansion to Site C. There was some discussion of this in the last meeting.
You need to control the talk.
I'm sorry.
You need to control the talk.
May I have your attention, please? We're getting ready to look at this resolution. Who would like to speak to that? Commissioner Overman?
Most of you, the commissioners, got an email from me, and in an effort to put that on public record and make sure that's not violating any laws, I'm gonna read that email. Commissioners, in the attached documents, which are excerpts from Enbridge Resource Report 10, you will see a few points. Section 10.6.1 states that the compressor station must be within the first 11 miles of the pipeline to optimize the compression of the increased volumes of natural gas necessary to meet the project purpose. On the next page, 10-10, Enbridge states the preferred site is the Bratton Farm that we are discussing at pipeline mile 4.0. Next page, 10-11, alternate sites A and B are listed at pipeline mile 6.0 and pipeline mile 8.2. Next page, 10-12, alternate site C, which is a TVA site listed at pipeline mile 10.8. The following page is a map showing the site C, TVA, and it shows a tiny 11 just across Highway 25 from the existing compressor station at TVA. This 11 is a marker for 11 pipeline miles. Mr. Art Haskins with Enbridge has specifically told me, and I think other commissioners, that if they are unable to go on the Bratton Farm, then they will go to Smith County, and Trousdale County will lose out on the proposed $2 million tax revenue. I propose to you that this is simply the big guy, Enbridge, trying to bully the small town commission of Trousdale County. By their own documentation, they have to go within the first 11 miles of this pipeline, which starts on Bass Road. 0.2 of a mile past the TVA site on the pipeline would be the Boo Young Farm in Dixon Springs. I have spoken to Stephen Young, the current owner of this historic farm. He is in support of the new compressor station going on the proposed site C, TVA, and has no communication with Enbridge in regards to a large compressor station and/or solar farm going on his property, which again, by their own documents, it would have to go on to meet the purpose of this project. I absolutely do not want to lose this projected tax revenue, but I also think we as the commission need to influence how industry comes to this county. Let's work with Enbridge and put this compressor station and the solar farm in an area of our county that is better suited for this type of development. Let's call Arts Bluff and approve resolution 2023-03-772 and do what's right and best for Trousdale County. I would next like to make a motion to amend this resolution to change the language so that it matches Enbridge's language. I would like the motion to state that all references for alternative site A in the resolution be changed to preferred site.
We have an amendment to the motion. Actually, we don't have a motion yet, but we have a motion to amend.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Leslie made the
Okay.
motion.
Motion and second. Discussion. Any discussion of the amendment?
It's a discussion, sir. If we're gonna have a meeting on the 7th about this, why do we need to be voting on this tonight? It'd be useless. If we vote on this tonight, it'd be useless to have a meeting on the 7th.
What we have before us right now is a motion to amend. Okay, let's handle that first and then we'll go to the motion. We have a motion to amend. Any other discussion on that?
Could Leslie repeat that motion for me, please?
I just want to amend the language to change anything, any reference to alternative site A to preferred site.
Any other discussion on the amendment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
Roll call.
Just approving the amendment.
Just the
This is the
amendment.
Just
amendment.
changing the language.
This is the change in the language of the motion, of the resolution.
Beverly Atwood,
Yes.
Tommy Belcher,
Yes.
Shane Burton,
No.
Alan Carmen,
Yes.
Grant Cothran,
Yes.
Brian Crook,
No.
Will Dennis,
Yes.
Jerry Ford,
No.
Chris Gregory,
No.
Bubba Gregory,
Yes.
Landon Gully,
No.
Richard Johnson,
Yes.
Judy Kerr,
No.
David Noller,
No.
Leslie Overman,
Yes.
Mark Presley,
No.
Amber Russell,
No.
Lonnie Taylor,
Yes.
David Thomas,
Yes.
Steve Whitaker.
No.
9 yes, 11 no.
Motion failed to amend. Commissioner Gregory.
Mr. Haskins is here, move to.
Excuse me, I
suspend
got
the-
that wrong.
It's 10-10.
It's 10-10, I got
I'm
10-10.
sorry, correction.
Sorry, it's 10-10.
10-10.
Yep. So let me-
Do what?
Does he still break it?
Since I'm chair, since I enjoy the position of chair rather than mayor in this meeting, the motion fails 10-10 vote. Yes, sir.
Mr. Haskins is here, so I'll move to suspend the rules and allow him to address the commission and answer any questions we might have on this.
Okay. You have a motion to suspend the rules so Mr. Haskins can speak. I need a second.
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Since we're having that meeting on the 7th, why don't we wait till the 7th to get all
Motion's
them?
been made and seconded.
Motion has been made and seconded and
Mr.
approved.
Gregory made that motion.
Just letting him speak is my motion, just let him speak. We haven't taken any action
I
yet.
did sign too, so. So Art Haskins, a manager,
Give the speaker your attention, please.
Art Haskins, a manager of stakeholder engagement for Enbridge. I am here on behalf of East Tennessee Natural Gas and our proposed Ridgeline pipeline expansion to support a proposal by TVA to replace their Kingston coal plant with natural gas. We're still a proposed pipeline project. I have a couple points to make. First of all, in relationship to the proposal that we had in our draft resource reports, So they are just that draft resource reports that we spent over the last couple of years creating these draft resource reports. Our filed resource reports will be sometime this summer as we continue to evaluate the project and develop the project, and really waiting until the draft environmental impact statement from TVA comes out, and we're anticipating that in May sometime. So as of now, our response, and I do not have this in writing, and I apologize for that, but our response from TVA to our business development, the people that signed the precedent agreement with TVA, is that TVA has denied any option for us to either lease or purchase that property that's near our existing compressor station. And with that and the sale of the other land, we do not have any of the preferred or the alternative locations that we talked about in Resource Report 10 when we filed that. Neither of those positions are available currently to us. Discussion about 11 miles, and that was correct at the time. Our company has continued to evaluate, not only from earlier when we were looking at horsepower changes, header pipe diameters, and those types of things, has continued to look at alternatives. And along the route, any land that's for sale, we need about 120 acres of mostly flat land, or 200 plus acres of land that is not as flat, to be able to both have our compressor station and the solar that's required from our partner TVA in this process, and for our own company's desire to have that. So we have been able to figure out that we do have a few more miles of available compressor, especially if we went to a 36 instead of a 30, or increased our amount of horsepower at the compressor station. As mentioned already a couple times, East Tennessee Natural Gas has a meeting before the commission on March 7th, in which we would be very happy to explain all of these and a lot of the process in which we go through to evaluate a location, how much work it takes, and all of the factors that are looked at by our regulatory agencies to ensure that these are the proper locations in which we can build something. This was requested and agreed upon by Enbridge during a meeting called by the mayor on November 30th that we attended. And we told them that it would take, we told everybody at that meeting, it would take time for us to develop the drawings, to get our resource reports, to create all this information and make sure it was all updated as best we could. We continue to do work related to that, but we believe that we have preliminary drawings, preliminary outlines that would be very valuable for everybody here to be able to see, and we'll have to present next week. I think it's been mentioned already about the taxes, and again, it's not a threat, it's just the reality of if we are forced to look at other locations, we're not really forced to look at them, we're going to just continue to look at them until we actually receive a notice to proceed from Federal Energy Regulatory Commission about their site that they've approved. We can have all the preferred sites we want, we can have all the alternatives we want, and they can still make us go back to the drawing board at any time. So all of the work we do and continue to do is to evaluate those locations. And we'll continue to do that until such time that that's available. We have been in the community for more than 70 years. We have the existing East Tennessee natural gas pipeline that we're talking about expanding to be able to provide that service to TVA, to continue to provide energy to the state of Tennessee that we have for a number of years. We also have our Texas Eastern Transmission System that is also part of Enbridge, and that runs basically north and south to the west of the city. We cross Main Street just down the way here by Parkhurst and the Methodist Church, and that continues on, crosses Highway 25 by Thoroughbred Lane, and generally follows Halltown Road north, and then continues all the way to basically to Nova Scotia. And there's 3 pipelines, 30 inches in that corridor. There was asked at the last meeting, the work session I was here, about odors, and just to cover that, our pipeline gas as a transmission company is not odorized. It's unodorized gas. Gas gets odorized as it goes to the distribution company, so our gas has no odor to it. And as far as noise, there's very little to no noise. It will be electrically motor-driven compressor, and just have a gas backup for reliability. And again, that was asked for by our partner in this TPA.
Questions?
Yes.
So to clarify, you're saying that all of the alternative sites are no longer considered a no-fly zone?
That's as far as what we've been told. All of the alternative sites that we had listed there are not available to us at this time anymore. We'll continue to investigate and look for sites. If somebody has or knows of approximately 120 acres of basically flat ground that's for sale within a mile or so of our pipeline, preferably right on the pipeline, would be very interested in that, but there is not a location that we're aware of. Yes.
Having looked at the the map with our tax assessor today, I'm not that familiar with it, but the cow farm back over here on the hill is like 200 acres of that. And Mr. Fox is telling me that he thought that land would now be available because the children had just recently got it under their aspect. So that's a possible place right there. It's back this way from where you're talking about.
Any other comments? We have a motion on the floor. Yes.
I just have one more question. Sure. If you're doing this in conjunction with TVA, did they give you a reason that they made that site unavailable?
We do not have a reason. I'm not aware of the reason. I was just told by our business development that it's not available for us to lease or buy.
We need more.
I've asked business development to have something, and hopefully I'll have it for next week. I don't have an email to one way or the other yet.
So you're saying that in ABRC, neither one is available?
Just the preferred site is available because we have an option on that site. The red part. And we have signed an option to purchase on that site. Yes.
If it was possible to put it in TVA, would you?
We'd have to continue to evaluate. I have no idea. Our alternative analysis at the time also says that there are more trees, it's not as flat, way more ground to earth movement. There's all kinds of, there's an exhaustive list of things that we have to evaluate in any site that we look at.
Thank you, sir. I stand corrected. We don't have a motion on the floor, but we can entertain one now. On resolution 2023-03772. Yes, sir.
Since we have this meeting with them next week, I'll move to postpone this matter until our March meeting, so that we can meet with them and hopefully get more information.
Yep. I have a motion and a second to postpone the matter. Bubba Gregory. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried. We move to the next resolution. Resolution 2023-04-773, authorizing private consultant contract. David Thomas, would you address that, please?
Yes, sir. This is the contract we're wanting to get into with Rick Gregory to do the consolidation and cleaning up of our codes and zoning. That hasn't been touched since we became a metro. And so we're just wanting to get some help with getting that cleaned up, seeing where the holes are in that and what we need to do to fill those holes if there are any. Right now, it's kind of a mess with some same notations as far as zoning. The C1 is listed both in the county and residential. So, but they're different in what they are allowed. This would clean all that up. It would give you just one set all the way down of your zonings. And that would, each one would have their own specific, whether they were rural or they would be in the urban district. Rick has a ton of expertise when it comes to this, lots of experience already with Trousdale County, so it makes him a perfect fit for the job.
This was covered in work session. I would entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Commissioner Ford, second by Ms. Overby. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried. Resolution 2023-05774, EMS billing waiver policy. Ms. Overman, would you just bring us up to date on that?
I have notes, but this is just changing their policy, to there. It's adding the EMS committee to the current resolution to, oversee their write-offs, the write-off policy at EMS.
To more oversight for write-offs, correct? Okay, that was also covered in work session 9, and kind of motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve by Thomas, second. Second by Russell. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Up, Gary? Yes, sir.
Is this for the people who can't pay next month?
Is this for what?
Is this for some of the people who literally can't pay?
I mean, that would still be there. I mean, we would still be able to write off things if people can't pay. I mean, yeah, we would just try to collect more.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to be sure.
You have a motion and a second?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Ford, just for clarification on that, the current policy pretty much states that just the director and I believe Ms. Teresa, who does the billing, and the mayor are the only ones who do that. So this would just give a little broader oversight to make sure that we're collecting everything we can and not leaving anything out.
No discussion.
Actually, I'm sorry, the current policy, that I have right here, the charges for EMS transport billing may be waived based upon financial hardship as determined by the guidelines established by Trousdale County EMS or with the approval of the director and or county mayor. This is adding in, and it will change it to the director, the county mayor, and the EMS committee. There's no and or, you know what I'm trying to. Sorry.
Any other discussion?
Question, as we said, the charge may be approved by the Emergency Services Committee, the EMS Director, and the County Mayor. Does that mean all three of them have to approve?
The county mayor usually attends the EMS committee's meetings,
Correct.
So it can all be done there.
Okay.
It's just to give it more oversight.
That's fine, I just want to make sure.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried. Resolution 2023-06775, the ECD road names. We'll flip over to there. You have it in your minutes. Any questions on that?
Make motion to approve.
Motion to approve, I hear a second. Second by Thomas. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carried. One other resolution, the resolution 2023-07776 in support, resolution of the EMS color scheme. Would anyone like to speak to that?
I'll speak to this one, since it's my resolution, just like that, I of course, have seen on Facebook and, supposedly there was a complaint to your office, which of course you clarified last week that there had to be, but, the majority of the people I've heard from like it, and, if there's gonna be a cost, there's gonna be a cost to change it or a cost to change it back, I like it, I think our people like it. Complain about it at night, well, you can't, when a vehicle's coming at you at night, you can't tell if it's black or white till it's right on top of you. Anyway, for an ambulance, the important thing is, does it have the lights and siren? Presumably it does. So I just don't see a point in changing it. I think it stands out. I think it shows pride in our community, and I just feel like we ought to keep it.
I addressed this in work session. As I told everyone, I had an invoice to spend $5,000 to bring the old ambulance up to the color scheme, and I found out under state law, an ambulance that's already in service does not have to be brought up to color scheme until it's retired. We do have, and I checked in, we do have another ambulance that's in production right now. And I wanted to make sure that the color schemes are consistent, because in the first one, the scheme was sent in with a gray, and I think most of y'all saw that gray, which personally I like better, but it came back black. And so I checked with the manufacturer to make sure the next one comes back to match the color of this one, or we'd be changing colors on more than one. So my thinking on this issue is this an issue important enough to bring before the commission, or is it something that needs to be settled at the committee level? That's up to you, that's up to commission, as far as I'm concerned. So are you bringing that in form of a motion?
Yes, sir, motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Got a second motion and a second. Any other discussion? Do we do roll? I guess we need to do roll call on that. Let's do roll call.
Now, the roll call is to, are we just leaving it to the committee?
No, he's wanting to do the color scheme together.
The vote is to leave the color scheme the way it is and not alter it.
So if you want it black, say yes, is that the?
That's correct. That would be correct. I do have roll call, so would you?
Ready? Beverly Atwood,
No.
Tommy Belcher, Shane Burton,
Yes.
Alan Carmen,
No.
Grant Cothran,
No.
Brian Crook,
Yes.
Will Dennis,
No.
Jerry Ford,
Yes.
Chris Gregory,
Yes.
Bubba Gregory,
No.
Landon Gully,
No.
Richard Johnson,
No.
Judy Kerr,
Yes.
David Nallner,
No.
Leslie Overman,
No.
Mark Presley,
Yes.
Amber Russell,
No.
Lonnie Taylor,
Yes.
David Thomas,
No.
Steve Whitaker.
No.
Let me count slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 yes, 12 no.
Motion failed.
So, will they go back to the committee now, or are you just going?
I thought we'll bring it up as an issue later to where matters of this import would be decided whether in committee or the EMS. Yes,
If you
sir.
go back to the grade now, it costs you 10,000 instead of 5.
Well, but the motion wasn't to go back to the grade. The motion was to.
It was a
to-
support. The motion, the resolution was a support of the current.
Yeah, the motion was in support of the current color.
Yeah, this resolution really don't even carry no weight.
Correct.
Because I was saying, this was just in support of the color or not. You know, a lot of people's talking about seeing an ambulance from a distance, going down the road with the lights on, hey, that thing's dark, I can't see that at night. Fact of the matter is, the reflectors on this black ambulance is better than what's on the white one. All you gotta do is get behind one traveling about 80 miles an hour and you find out.
Okay, it's much different on the back than on the sides. But like you say,
Well, I didn't think a black ambulance would be a big deal, yeah? Especially if we
and
spend
it shouldn't
five.
be. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, and I think my point of voting no to this resolution was simply that I see no point of having to bring every little detail of paint colors and whatnot before the full commission. I think it's a waste of this body's time, and that's what subcommittees are for.
Well, by the vote, the subcommittees has voted to go back white, basically. Because there was only, what, 2 in favor? So if it goes to the committee, it's gonna go back white.
Not necessarily.
Man, we spend $5,000 on chairs and phones.
I don't see it changing if it goes back to committee, actually. Yes, ma'am.
As the chair of the EMS committee, I will add it to our agenda for our March 8th meeting, and we can discuss it there. And come back with a resolution if that's what we decide to do.
Thank you. Moving right along. Yes, ma'am.
It just seems like that maybe instead of color, we should vote on if we want to spend any more money changing it. That was what I voted on in my brain, is saving 5,000.
And I think that should be left to committee. But I
And
think
I'm
that-
fine with that.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, moving on to ordinances. We've got a lot to cover. Public hearing is now open for discussion of any of these ordinances. Anyone that'd like to speak to me, you still have an opportunity to come up and sign in. If not, we're going to move right along. Ordinance 264, 2023-01, rezoning R2 to R3 on West Main. Anyone like to speak to that? It was covered in the work session. All in,
For me to repeat what I found out about this rezoning.
you might, yes.
Mr. he had came to me and had discussed with me, my issue on this particular land was I was concerned that there might be a sinkhole or a well on there. And he did research it. They did locate something of that sort. He does have a company coming in to cover that up and take care of that, so that is no longer an issue.
Okay, thank you. Anyone like to speak to ordinance 265, 2023-02, rezoning A1 to R1 on Rankin Road? If not, we'll move to ordinance 260, oh, sorry.
It's one whole public hearing. So we'll come back for the second reading.
We'll come back to the second reading. Ordinance 266, 2023-03, rezoning A1 to R1 on Honeysuckle Road. Any public comment on that? If not, ordinance 267, 2023-04, amending zoning resolution on Trousdale Solar Energy Facility. Anyone to speak to that? If you recall, it's on solar farms of 10 acres or more. Covered very well in work session. Ordinance 268, 2023-05 to amend zoning ordinance of Hartsville Solar Energy Facility. These are tied together. Any discussion? Ordinance 269, 2023-06, planning and zoning application fee schedule. Anyone want to speak to that? That's been covered. Ordinance 270, 2023-07 to amend zoning resolution of Trousdale land use definitions. Been a lot of work done on that. Any discussion? Ordinance 271, 2023-08 to amend zoning ordinance on Hartsville land use definitions. Anyone speak? Having no further members of the public coming forward, I'll consider a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close, second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Now we go back and take these one at a time. Ordinance 264, 2023-01, rezoning R2 to R3 on West Main. Motion to approve by Gregory, second by Gully. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No.
Motion carried. Ordinance 260. She said, slow down. Is everybody with me so far? I'm watching the clock. No, actually, I'm not. Ordinance 265, 2023-02, rezoning A1 to R1 Rankin Road. Any discussion?
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Motion to approve by Gully, second by Chris Gregory. I forgot I was not giving Rita time to write, so is that why you kicked me, Amy?
Yes, it is.
My hand will be like that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Which one is this?
All opposed.
Ordinance 266, 2023-03, rezoning from A1 to R1 on Honeysuckle Road. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Overman, second by Taylor. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Thank you. The next two we'll take together. Ordinance 267, 2023-04, ordinance 268, 2023-05, amending the zoning resolution for Trousdale and Hartsville regarding solar energy facilities. Motion to approve by Atwood, second by Overman. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
So every time this has been referenced, it's been referenced as this is calling a solar farm 10 acres or more. But when you read the actual facility description here, says any area of land consisting of more than 10 acres.
Okay.
So if you had 10 acres, it wouldn't be a solar farm, it would be more than 10 acres would be considered a solar farm, correct?
That sounds correct to me.
So just making sure everyone understands what we are voting on for the second reading.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Motion carried. Ordinance 269, 2023-06, planning and zoning application fee schedule. It's been updated and was discussed at length in work session. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
I'd like to propose a motion to amend this to start the effective date as of May 1st. So that it will give us time to get signs purchased and be able to actually have it enforceable when it goes into effect.
So you want to amend the ordinance?
He's asking to amend the ordinance to change the effective date. And so, the mayor second.
I'll second.
Second by Gregory. This is an amendment to the ordinance. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No? Say no. Okay. We're amending the date on the ordinance. So now I need a motion to approve the ordinance as amended. Motion to approve by Atwood, second. Second by Thomas. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried. The next two can be taken together. As far as land use definitions are concerned, ordinance 270, 2023-07, ordinance 271-2023-08. I need a motion to approve. Motion by Chris Gregory. Where's my second? Second by Atwood. I will give you a moment to write.
Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried. We have three first readings this evening. First is ordinance 272-2023-09, rezoning from A1 to R1 on Hawkins Branch. Ms. Rosalie, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, sir, and I believe Mr. Ferguson is here too. As much as we can, Mr. Ferguson. Basically, what this is that this piece of property is right next to another property that is owned by the property owner and it's zoned R1. So we'd like to rezone this to match that, so we have two properties at the same.
That was understood in work session. Yes, sir.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Gully, second by Commissioner Taylor. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried. Ordinance 273-2023-10, rezoning from A1 to R1 on Lady Reese Road. Ms. Rosalie, who would like to speak to that? Would you?
This is property that is owned by the family, and they'd like to go ahead and rezone this to R1. It is surrounded by some R1 property, R2 property, and A1. They'd like to subdivide this property and build a house for another family member.
Family member. Motion to approve by Gregory, second by Thomas. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Don't forget your opposed. Don't forget your opposed votes.
Ordinance 274-2023-11 to amend zoning resolution for tribal campgrounds. Who would like to speak to that?
I can speak to that.
Go ahead.
So this has come through codes and zoning, planning, and it's been reviewed by Mr. Beller. This is only taking out exclusively the word there in both the Hartsville and Trousdale zoning for campgrounds. So it'll allow anyone who has a store or restaurant, any commercial uses stated in there can also then sell those items to people from outside the campground. That's all it does.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Overman, second by Gully. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carried. Under budget amendments, we have two items where money is being moved from
Fund balance.
the fund balance. One is for a redundant phone servers, which we discussed in work session. It's to move the router or the service to the sheriff's department rather than going through the county offices. There have been some issues there, and so this allows them to have more direct access to controlling that. But since we're moving money out of the fund balance, there need to be a roll call vote on that.
That is correct.
So I need a motion to approve.
So motion approved.
Motion by Gully, second by Ford. Any discussion? We need a roll call on that, please.
Beverly Atwood. Tommy Belcher. Shane Burton.
Yes.
Alan Carmen.
Yes.
Grant Cochran.
Yes.
Brian Crook.
Yes.
Will Dennis.
Yes.
Jerry Ford.
Yes.
Chris Gregory.
Yes.
Bubba Gregory.
Yes.
Landon Gully.
Yes.
Richard Johnson.
Yes.
Judy Kerr.
Yes.
David Noller.
Yes.
Leslie Overman.
Yes.
Mark Presley.
Yes.
Amber Russell.
Yes.
Lonnie Taylor.
Yep.
David Thomas.
Yes.
Steve Whitaker.
Yes.
All 20 yes, 0 no.
Okay. On 101.13 FB, insurance premium increase, again, since that's coming out of fund balance, I'll need a motion to approve. Motion by Ford, second by Gully. Roll call again. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Just a minute. Beverly Atwood.
Yes.
Tommy Belcher. Shane Burton.
Yes.
Alan Carmen.
Yes.
Grant Cochran.
Yes.
Brian Crook.
Yes.
Will Dennis.
Yes.
Jerry Ford. Chris Gregory.
Yes.
Bubba Gregory.
Yes.
Landon Gully.
Yes.
Richard Johnson.
Yes.
Judy Kerr.
Yes.
David Noller.
Yes.
Leslie Overman.
Yes.
Mark Presley.
Yes.
Amber Russell.
Yes.
Lonnie Taylor.
Yes.
David Thomas.
Yes.
Steve Whitaker.
Yes.
20 yes, 0 no.
Motion carried. Would y'all like to discuss these individually as we've gone through the budget amendments? 101-14 is zoning codes consulting services that we discussed earlier. Any question on that? And we can blanket approve these, or we can go one at a time. Which do you rather do?
Can we just put them all together, a motion to put them all together and vote on them all together?
Would you like to discuss them individually and vote on them all together? Or I can ask, are there any questions on any of these? Maybe there should be. The senior center is moving money out of reserves. The election office is again moving some money to a different account, are they not?
It's still moving money within their
Within
budget.
their budget. County clerk's office is purchasing some new chairs. Under Fund 118-1, overtime
Maybe we better
is,
separate, maybe we better not do them all together. Let's just, I'm gonna make a motion to approve,
The general fund.
$11,000 budget amendment.
approve what? The 11,000?
Yes.
Okay. Have a motion to approve the 11,000 for zone coding consulting services. I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Thomas. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried. Let's just take them one at a time. 101-15R on the senior citizens reserve, they're just moving money around. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
By Atwood, second.
Aye.
By Presley. Discussion? All in favor say aye. 101-16, election offices, they're just moving money within their budget. Motion to approve. By Atwood, second?
Second.
By Coughlin. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. County clerk's purchasing chairs, 101-17. Motion to approve by Atwood, second.
Second.
Coughlin. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Under ambulance services, Fund 118-01, money is being transferred to cover overtime. Mr. Gully, you want to discuss that?
I can, if we want to, have some questions, budget, finance discussed this pretty heavily, last Monday night. We're looking at a number there where overtime, Ms. Overman spoke earlier from EMS, we're looking at roughly 80% of overtime already spent. Keep in mind, roughly each employee has scheduled in 56 hours of overtime per month. That's already built into the budget, so we're already pulling from overtime or adding money to overtime. We're seeing there's an issue at 80% at this point. However, at this point, it's money that we're going to have to spend. There may be some things we've got to question and fix going forward. We really have to fund our employees that have already paid these pieces of time. I don't like it. That was spoken pretty well at where we are, that we're talking about this amount of dollars in overtime already and covering here in February, where we're already seeing 80% of overtime. And those employees are going to continue to have 56 hours of overtime scheduled per month if it's fully staffed. So this is really covering extra overtime is what we need to understand here in this case. We discussed it at length. It did come with a favorable recommendation from Budget and Finance. I know all 5 members voted yes for that piece in this case. So it was approved by Budget and Finance to send it with a favorable recommendation. It's money we want to spend. Are there some questions that still need to be asked? I think certainly that's the case.
But this money is not new money coming from 101. This is money that's already in the ambulance fund. We're just moving it to a different line item.
Right, to cover overtime. Need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion approved by Crook. Second by Presley. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried. Under Fund 131 Highway, 131-2 line items, this money being moved around, is that what we're doing? Okay. A motion to approve by Ford, second by Will Dennis. Any discussion there? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Fund 141 Schools, is Dr. Satterfield here? You want to speak to this, Dr. Satterfield?
I can.
Do you mind?
The first one is the new trust. That's an unemployment consortium that we're in, about 50 on counties. And actually, that's a revenue dividend. And when they send it back, they want to use it on student programs. We use that for student incentives, and we use that for our summer learning camp. The other one is for our strategic compensation. You remember we had this conversation one time when we did our budget. We budget all of our bonuses in 71, 100, 185. When we pay them out, we take it out of that line item and put it in a special category later in the year. We don't know how much it is. That way you can see exactly how much money you budget each and every year. So the first one is revenue, and then the second one is a transfer from 71 to 100, 185 to the respective category in the amount of $13,981.
Any questions?
Move to approve both.
Move to approve both by Chris Gregory, second by Terry Gregory. Get the Gregory straight here, okay? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried. Notaries. Got them right here. Do I read these or does the clerk read these? Is that Janine?
Janine.
Okay, we have Janine Blair from Tri-Metal, Hope Gregory from the Charles County Health Department, Lindsay Wright Regions Bank, Tiffany M. Robertson from Core Civic, and Michelle N. Coleman from Core Civic. I'd entertain a motion to approve. Alderman, second by Gully. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried. Other business we need brought before the court. Yes, sir.
Under 11B appointments, was there any update for the Board of Zoning Appeals on that appointment?
If your Board of Zoning Appeals are delaying those.
I'm sorry.
If the Board of Zoning Appeals, you're delaying those until next.
Okay, we're delaying those till next month.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear you.
I didn't say, so it's a good question. Any other business, public comment? Any public comment? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second by Gully. This motion is not debatable. All in favor, stand up. Thank you.